As twilight descended, the glow from neon signs danced faintly across the hood of Marcus's old pickup as he pulled into the gravel lot outside Rusty's Tavern, a quiet watering hole tucked off Route 19 in Tennessee. The place wasn't much to look at, but for locals and long-haul truckers, it was a haven. No frills, just drinks, dim lighting, and worn-out booze. Marcus had only been home for a week. After months overseas, he wasn't ready for noise or attention. Just a quiet night and a drink that didn't come in a plastic bottle. He pushed open the heavy door, greeted by the buzz of conversation and the soft twang of Waylon Jennings echoing from a battered jukebox. Inside, life moved slowly. A couple of guys taking shots at the pool table, some laughter from the bar, and a few loners hunched over their beers, nursing stories they didn't want to tell. He slipped into a shadowy table in the far corner, where he could watch without being watched. His camo jacket matched the low light, and the worn sneakers on his feet told a story of comfort over show. He ordered water, just water, and let his thoughts wander to home-cooked meals and the nephew he hadn't seen since he left. Then the door flew open. 6 men stomped in, their boots thudding against the wooden floor. Weathered denim jackets bore the marks of old battles and forgotten affiliations. Veterans, clearly. They brought with them noise, laughter, and a presence that demanded attention. Marcus glanced their way, then turned back to his drink, until he caught the stare of one man. The leader. Stocky, gray-bearded, eyes sharp and calculating. The man's laughter cut off mid-chuckle. He said something under his breath, and suddenly the group was all eyes on Marcus. The air shifted. They stared. Marcus didn't look back. He knew that look, the one that tried to measure you up and tear you down at the same time. He leaned back, let the jukebox fill his ears, and kept his focus forward. The group at the bar huddled in closer, talking low, their gazes flicking back to him. The bearded man whispered something, and one of them laughed loudly, a forced, pointed sound. Marcus didn't move. His posture was relaxed, but his mind had already calculated the distance to the door, the angles, the exits. Years of training didn't leave you just because you were off duty. The tavern's hum dimmed as the men made their way toward him. Boots on floorboards. The leader led the charge, eyes locked on Marcus like a predator circling. "Hey!" he barked, stopping just shy of the table. His voice was rough, tinged with mockery. "Nice outfit. Pick it up at a Halloween store?" The others chuckled behind him. Marcus looked up, calm. "It's not a costume," he said. "I earned it." The man scoffed. "Yeah, that right? Funny, don't recall seeing any real soldiers pairing their camo with ratty sneakers. You begging for a beer, or just playing vet for attention?" Marcus's jaw set slightly. His tone stayed level. "Not here for sympathy. Just a quiet evening." The man leaned in, close enough for Marcus to smell the whiskey on his breath. "You don't look like any soldier I've ever seen. Where's your boots? Your dog tags? Bet you wouldn't even know how to salute if I asked. Probably couldn't even spell basic training." One of the others chimed in. Another added, "Doubt he's even seen a real fight." Their laughter grated against the country tune still spilling from the jukebox. Marcus said nothing, scanning the group silently. He wasn't afraid, but he was done with the game. "I don't owe you an explanation," he said. The leader bristled. He took a step closer, casting a long shadow across the table. "You think you're some kind of hero? Sitting here like you belong? I don't buy it." The whole bar was listening now. The bartender had stopped pouring. Patrons froze mid-sip. Marcus looked the man dead in the eye. "3 tours overseas," he said. "That's where I got this. And I don't need your permission to sit here." Silence. Just for a second. The man hesitated, but pride forced his sneer to stay. "Yeah," he said. "Prove it. Show your tags." If not, you're just a phony. Marcus scanned the rest of the group. Unease flickered in some of their eyes now. They weren't quite so sure anymore, but no one stepped in. I'm not here to put on a show, Marcus said quietly. But if you're thinking of starting something, you might want to rethink that. Tension crackled in the air like a live wire. The bartender's hand hovered near the phone. Around them, whispers stirred and drinks paused midair. Then the man smirked again. You got a smart mouth. Let's see if you're as quick with your hands. He lunged. It wasn't graceful, more a lurch than an attack, but it was enough. Marcus moved without thinking. Muscle memory took over. He stepped aside, grabbed the man's wrist midair, twisted it sharply behind his back, and used his own momentum to shove him against the edge of the table. A grunt of pain. The group froze. The entire bar watched in stunned silence. Marcus's voice cut through like a blade. I warned you. His grip was firm but measured. You don't want to push this further. The man squirmed, face red, teeth bared. One of the others edged forward, hands raised, voice cracking. Hey, come on, man. Just let him go. He didn't mean it. Marcus met his gaze. He made the move. You all saw it. The bartender finally spoke. Might be best if y'all cleared out before this turns uglier. But the leader, now red-faced and rattled, wasn't done. Someone called him Vince. He snarled, Call the cops. This guy assaulted me. Wearing a fake uniform. He's an imposter. Marcus let go, pushing Vince back with practiced control. The man stumbled, clutching his arm and glaring daggers. You'll regret that, he hissed. The rest of the gang gathered behind him, puffed up with false courage. One pulled out a phone, voice loud and angry. Yeah, we've got someone impersonating a soldier. He just attacked my friend. The room remained still. Everyone watching, waiting for what came next. Marcus remained motionless, his outward calm belying the storm of thoughts racing in his mind. He knew the situation could escalate quickly, but he also understood that his actions were justified. His years of service, the sacrifices he made, would stand against their unfounded accusations. All he needed to do was maintain his composure. The murmur of the bar grew louder as people whispered amongst themselves, casting furtive glances at Marcus. Some seemed uncertain, while others appeared quietly impressed by his calm response. However, no one came forward to challenge the unfolding situation. Outside, the unmistakable sound of sirens approached, slicing through the tension in the room. Red and blue lights flickered through the windows, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. The police had arrived. The bar door swung open, and two officers stepped in. One was a tall man with broad shoulders and a buzz cut, his face unreadable behind dark sunglasses. The other was a woman, sharp-eyed and observant, her presence calm yet authoritative. Their arrival immediately silenced the room, all eyes turning to them. We got a call about an altercation, the male officer said, his voice steady. Can someone explain what's going on here? Vince, still clutching his wrist and visibly agitated, pointed at Marcus. That guy assaulted me, and he's pretending to be a soldier. Just look at him. He's not even wearing proper boots. The officer's gaze shifted to Marcus, who stood calmly by his table, a picture of composure. Is that true? The officer asked, his tone neutral. Marcus shook his head slowly, meeting the officer's eyes. No, sir. This man and his friends confronted me because they doubted I was a real soldier. When he tried to grab me, I defended myself. The female officer stepped forward, her eyes scanning the room. Did anyone witness this? She asked, her voice carrying quiet authority. The bartender was the first to speak. I saw the whole thing. Vince went after him, and the soldier just defended himself. It wasn't assault. A murmur of agreement rippled through the bar. One of the regulars near the jukebox added, Vince was already worked up when he walked in. The male officer turned back to Marcus. Do you have proof of your service? Marcus nodded and gestured to a duffel bag resting by his table. My service uniform and ID are in that bag. Feel free to take a look. The officer opened the bag carefully, pulling out the uniform, neatly folded with medals and patches. After a brief inspection, he turned to his partner, who gave a subtle nod. You're cleared, the officer said, his tone firm yet respectful. Thanks for your cooperation. Vince, still fuming and nursing his pride, growled. You're just going to take his word for it. He could have faked all that. The female officer shot him a sharp look. Enough. From what I've gathered, you instigated this. You're lucky he's not pressing charges for assault. Her words hit Vince like a slap, and his arrogance began to deflate. The rest of the group shifted uneasily, avoiding eye contact. Here's how this goes, the male officer continued. We'll file a report. If you want to pursue your claims, you're free to do so, but know that making false accusations is a serious offense. Vince opened his mouth to argue but closed it when he realized he had no ground to stand on. The officer stepped back, scanning the room one last time before turning to leave. The female officer turned to Marcus. Thanks for keeping your composure. We'll make sure everything is documented. Marcus gave a brief nod, his calm unbroken. Thank you, officer. The bikers, now defeated, slowly began to leave the bar. Vince glared at Marcus one last time before storming out, the group trailing behind him. The officers followed shortly, and the bar slowly returned to its usual atmosphere. Marcus sat back down, his drink still untouched. The encounter lingered in his mind, but he was relieved it hadn't escalated. The patrons around him, who had been uneasy moments ago, now watched him with a quiet respect. A few days later, Marcus was in the driveway of his modest home in Clarksville, Tennessee, working on his old pickup truck. The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the yard as he tightened a bolt under the hood. The events at the bar still weighed on his mind, not because of the confrontation, but because it was a reminder of how often he was judged without cause. He knew this wouldn't be the last time. The crunch of gravel under tires broke his thoughts. He straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag, and turned to see a motorcycle rolling into the driveway. The rider was one of the men from the bar, a lean guy with a receding hairline, wearing a too large denim jacket. Marcus recognized him as Ray, one of Vince's crew. Ray shut off the engine and dismounted, removing his helmet before hesitating and stepping closer. His posture was careful, almost apologetic, like he was unsure how to approach a dangerous animal. Marcus, right? Ray's voice was soft. Marcus nodded but stayed silent, waiting for Ray to continue. Ray stuffed his hands into his jacket pockets, his face flushed with guilt. I just wanted to come by and apologize for what happened at the bar. Marcus raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. You were part of it, he said flatly. Ray nodded, his guilt palpable. I didn't stop it, and I should have. Vince has a way of stirring people up, and I went along with it. But I know that doesn't make it right. I've been thinking about it ever since, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Marcus watched Ray carefully. The man's unease was clear, but there was also sincerity in his apology. Why now? Marcus asked, his voice steady. Ray looked down at his boots before meeting Marcus's gaze. Because it's the right thing to do. And, seeing how you handled yourself, it made me realize we were wrong. You didn't deserve any of that. There was a long silence before Marcus responded. He exhaled slowly, leaning against the truck, his arms crossed. What do you want from me? Forgiveness? Ray's eyes softened. Maybe. But more than that, I want to be better. I've seen enough hate in my life, and I don't want to keep adding to it. What we did was wrong, and I need to own up to it. Marcus's expression softened. He had heard apologies before, some heartfelt, others less so. This one felt different, not because of the words, but because Ray was standing here, facing his mistake. "I appreciate you coming by," Marcus said. "It doesn't fix what happened, but it's a start." Ray nodded, visibly relieved. "Thanks, man. I really mean it." As Ray revved his bike and sped off, Marcus watched him disappear into the distance. The apology felt like a small victory, not just for Marcus, but for a world that could, in small steps, become a little more understanding. Marcus turned back to his truck, wiping his hands once more. He knew the struggle against ignorance wasn't over, but moments like this, when someone acknowledged their wrongs, made it feel just a little bit easier. The evening was peaceful as he finished his work, the quiet broken only by the distant hum of crickets. Marcus felt a renewed sense of determination. The battles he fought weren't always on foreign soil. Sometimes they happened here, in small towns, in personal exchanges, and in the hearts of people willing to change. And for Marcus, those were battles worth fighting.